Well, there is an interesting, and I mean interesting, article at Zero Hedge. Moscow and Beijing join forces to bypass the U.S. dollar in global markets and shift to gold. Move my mic. Trade. And I had a few people emailing me this. Hey, check this out. Trust me, if it's on Zero Hedge, I done seen it. One of my sites I check every day. However, good to put it back in my face, when you guys email me. So what is this? I'm titling this video, One Step Closer to Gold-Backed Currency / Trade. Because essentially that's what they're talking about, but it's a move being done by China and Russia. The Russian central bank opened its first overseas office in Beijing on March 14th, marking a step closer, or actually a step forward, in forging a Beijing-Moscow alliance to bypass the U.S. dollar in the global monetary system and to phase in a gold-backed standard of trade. According to the South China Morning Post, the new office was part of agreements made between the two neighbors to seek stronger economic ties since the West brought in sanctions against Russia over the Ukraine crisis and the oil price slump hit the Russian economy. Now, first of all, in case anyone's unaware, the whole Ukraine thing, that wasn't Russia's fault. That was 100% the United States meddling again in another foreign country, this time Ukraine. A lot of the people didn't want anything to do with that over there, and they, I think Crimea or whatever split off and essentially joined Russia. So now Russia's the bad guy, sanctions, when it is absolutely not the Russians, trust me. And I hate to say this because I'm an American, I really do, but pretty much everything you hear about in the world, 90-something%, oh, that bad guy, bad country, bad dictator. We were meddling. We put someone in power. Now they don't like us anymore, but they're still in power. So all of a sudden they're a bad guy. But we put them in power. That's how we roll over here. So I just want to, in case anyone thinks, like we turn into, oh, women and children, we got to go save them, the poor women and children. Well, what about the women and children starving to death in Venezuela right now? World's like sitting on the most vast oil and gas reserves ever. And they ran out of gas the other day for the local economy, local people. How's that happen? Yeah, he's a dictator, Maduro, whatever. He doesn't want to lose that power. But if we're so concerned about women and children, why aren't we over there? Well, that's a video for another day. So, according to Dmitry Skobilkin, the deputy governor of the Central Bank of Russia, the opening of a Beijing representative office by the Central Bank of Russia was a very timely move to aid specific cooperation, including bond issuance, anti-money laundering, and anti-terrorism measures between Russia and China. The new central bank office was opened at a time when Russia is preparing to issue its first federal loan bonds denominated in Chinese yuan. Officials from China's central bank and financial regulatory commissions attended the ceremony at the Russian embassy in Beijing, which was set up in October of 1959 in the heyday of Sino-Soviet relations. Financial regulators from the two countries agreed last May to issue home currency denominated bonds in each other's markets, a move that was widely viewed as intended to eventually test the global reserve status of the U.S. dollar. What has the WebBot been telling you about way in advance? The death of the dollar. And for some reason, it never seems to go away in all these reports that keep coming out every month now from the talking about the WebBot reports. Death of the dollar meme has gone nowhere. It is still in the data. It's on like Donkey Kong. It's just a matter of when. So when I come out here and read you something like this new agreement, and I'm not even done yet about the gold part, by the way. Another thing Webbot's been screaming about for years in the data. But the death of the dollar has been in the Webbot reports so far back, that you would have looked around like, what in the hell is this idiotic report? What is this nonsense? Death of the dollars. We have the world's reserve currency. There's no end in sight. What are you talking about? I think these days you can clearly see exactly what's happening and which countries out there have been moving year after year, every few months, some little change, a little thing over here. Chinese, we're going to open this Shanghai gold market. It's a physical market only, no paper futures contracts. Right, you see all these little movements. And if you add them all up together, it tells you a story. And you don't even have to know the end of the story. You can already see how it's going to end. We have enough of the story to see. Gold-backed currencies in the future is going to be the new norm. And the death of the US dollar being the reserve currency is in full swing. You just may not see it yet because you're not looking in the right places, like mainstream media, news. You're not going to see it there. But what have I told you? Our president and his Treasury Secretary, Mr. Steven Mnuchin, I hate saying that word, Mnuchin. Sounds like a mooch. Steven the Mooch in. He's a mooch. No, actually, he's not a mooch. He's a multi-millionaire, of course. So, he said, both of them, President and Mr. Treasury Secretary, the dollar is valued too high. What do you think that's going to mean? I've already told you 100 times. Devaluation must occur when the timing is right. So, back to this interesting article from Zero Hedge. Speaking on future ties with Russia, Chinese Premier Li Keqiang said in mid-March that Sino-Russian trade ties were affected by falling oil prices, but he added that he saw great potential in cooperation. Vladimir Shipovalov, a senior official at the Russian Central Bank, said the two banks were drafting a memorandum of understanding to solve technical issues around China's gold imports from Russia, and that details would be released soon. If Russia, the world's fourth largest gold producer after China, Japan, and the U.S., is indeed set to become a major supplier of gold to China, the probability of a scenario hinted by many over the years, namely that Beijing is preparing to eventually unroll a gold-backed currency, increases by orders of magnitude now. Meanwhile, as the Russian central bank was getting closer to China, China was responding in kind with the establishment of a clearing bank in Moscow for handling transactions in Chinese yuan. The Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, or ICBC, officially started operating as a Chinese renminbi clearing bank in Russia on Wednesday this past week. The financial regulatory authorities of China and Russia have signed a series of major agreements, which marks a new level of financial cooperation. The launching of renminbi clearing services in Russia will further expand local settlement business and promote financial cooperation between the two countries. What about America? Hey, what about us? We can't play? We can't play with you guys anymore? No, we've been the bully all this time, and we just got bullied by you and dealt with it. But we're kind of tired of it. And by the way, you're still bullying my friend over here, Russia, with your sanctions. So yeah, there's nothing you can do to play with us kids anymore. You're on your own, America. That's the theme on the other side of the planet. That these, again, the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, all that, they're having these meetings. They haven't heard any in recent times, but they've had them last year, year before. And guess who's not invited to the party each and every time? There was no United States representative when those talks are going on, trade agreement deals. They want to work together, create their, bolster their economy a bit. Hold on. We weren't invited. Hey, we used to get invited to all the parties. Yeah, listen, they had 3 parties last month. You guys didn't get invited to one of them. And by the way, I'm telling you this because I like you as a friend, America. You'll never be invited to another one of these parties. Just don't tell anybody I told you that. And especially, don't tell your citizens that because, you know, they're going to be really upset with you guys for leading them down that path. And by the way, good luck dealing with your 20 trillion, which is going to probably explode to enormous highs now that Donald Trump wants to come in and spend money, which means more debt has to be created. But that's another story. Let me get back to where I was. Let's see, where was he down here? Irina Rogova, a Russian financial analyst, told the Russian magazine Expert that the clearing center could become a large financial hub for countries in the Eurasian Economic Union. Whoa. Eurasian Economic Union? I haven't even heard of that. I don't even know what the hell that is. There's an economic union and America I haven't even heard it one time on Fox News or CNN or MSNBC. What are you talking about? What are they talking about? Bypassing the US dollar appears to be paying off. According to the Chinese State Administration of Taxation, trade turnover between China and Russia increased by 34% in January in annual terms. Bilateral trade in January 2017 amounted to $6.55 billion. China's exports to Russia grew 29.5%, reaching $3.41 billion, while imports from Russia increased by 39.3% to $3.14 billion. Just as many suspected, with Russian sanctions forcing Moscow to find other trading partners, chief among which China. This is precisely what has happened. Oh, you're going to put sanctions on us, America? Fine. F off. We tried to work with you. We even paid John Podesta. We paid John Podesta a bunch of money to redo those sanctions, get rid of them if he could. No one's talking about that in the media. John Podesta's group tried to get some money from the Russians and did to help campaign against the sanctions, which didn't work, but they did get paid. Isn't that amazing? Where's the media on that one? And it doesn't matter. Russia has had enough. We'll just work with other people outside of the United States. Sorry, we tried, but the people running your country are criminals, fraudsters, shysters, pedos, everything else. So we've had enough. We're going to go with the Eurasian bloc, mostly with China. Have a nice day. Oh, and by the way, the new world currency that we're going to be putting out for trading and stuff, it's going to be gold-backed. How do you think your U.S. dollar is going to compete when we go gold-backed currency? That's what they're saying to us all. So, the creation of the clearing center enables the two countries to further increase bilateral trade and investment while decreasing their dependence on the U.S. dollar. It will create a pool of yuan liquidity in Russia that enables transactions for trade and financial operations to run smoothly. In expanding the use of national currencies for transactions, it could also potentially reduce the volatility of yuan and ruble exchange rates. The clearing center is one of a range of measures the People's Bank of China and the Russian Central Bank have been looking at to deepen their cooperation, Sputnik reported. One of the most significant measures under consideration is the previously reported push for joint organization of trade in gold. In recent years, China and Russia have been the world's most active buyers of the precious metal. On a visit to China last year, the deputy head of the Russian Central Bank, Sergei Shvetsov, said that the two countries want to facilitate more transactions in gold between the two countries. We discussed the question of trade in gold, BRICS countries, remember those guys, are large economies with large reserves of gold and an impressive volume of production and consumption of this precious metal. In China, the gold trade is conducted in Shanghai. In Russia, it is in Moscow. Our idea is to create a link between the two cities in order to increase trade between the two markets. First Deputy Governor of the Russian Central Bank, Sergei Shchetsov, told Russia's TASS news agency. In other words, China and Russia are shifting away from dollar-based trade to commerce, which will eventually be backstopped by gold, or what is gradually emerging as an Eastern gold standard, one shared between Russia and China, and which may backstop their respective currencies. Meanwhile, the price of gold continues to reflect none of these potentially tectonic strategic shifts, just as China, which has been the biggest accumulator of gold in recent years, likes it. They like it. Exactly. Of course they do. This is why I've been telling you, if we were just a fly on the wall all these years, any of my subscribers who've been around long term, I've been yelling, and I use the same thing, the same little sentence. If we were a fly on the wall, watching and listening what Russia, China, the BRICS nation, all these people are doing, import more gold, more gold, and silver. India, they love silver too. It's not just gold, it's silver too, but it's mainly gold. Because if they do this, where they're backing trade with gold, you're not going to be able to back trade with silver because silver is too cheap compared to gold. So you're going to have piles and piles of silver for trade. Well, that doesn't make sense. When you have enormous trade volumes, which also means enormous amounts of money being exchanged, you need something, the smallest asset, physical asset you can have with the most value. Takes up less space, but it has a high value. That's gold. Not to dissuade you from silver, because I'm not, for any reason, going to change out even any of my silver for gold. Because I know silver is going to perform extremely well, and I do believe it will perform for us, little people, better than if we had gold. Even though gold's going to make you smile really, really big. Because it's a 70-to-1 ratio with gold. It takes approximately 70 ounces of silver. Matter of fact, I will give you the exact ratio right now as soon as I can see the specific prices. Okay. $12.49 for gold divided by 18.23 for silver. 68.5 to 1. So we'll just keep that at 68. 68 to 1. Yet, I think that it's an 8 to 1 ratio, 8 or 10 to 1. I think it's 8 to 1 ratio in which silver comes out of the ground versus gold. 8 ounces of silver will come out of the ground before 1 ounce of gold comes out of the ground. Therefore, in a normal, not upside down, central bank rigged, bankster, gangster people running the show, you would think whatever gold price is, silver should be 8 times less that amount, And just to, again, let's pull up the calculator again. It's 12.49. 12.49 divided by 8. Silver should be $156 right now today. Having said that, if it was a 16-to-1 ratio, which is what history normally shows, it should be almost $80, $78 right now today. How would you feel if your stack was worth $78 today, each ounce? You'd be pretty happy. But then again, you might be saying, you know what? No, I wouldn't, J-Snip. I haven't been able to stack silver all these years like a lot of you guys have because I wasn't aware or I didn't have the money or whatever. And now I do. And I'm ready to start stacking. I just started stacking. I only have 100 ounces, 200 ounces. I want to get to 500. I want to get to 1,000 if I can. So, damn it, I don't want the prices to go. I don't want $78 silver. I like $18 silver right now. Matter of fact, if they want to knock it down 15, 16 bucks, I'd be happy with that. And I would agree, and I'd go buy some more, even though I've met all my goals. Just because when there's a sweetheart deal like that and it's precious metals, the way I look at it is every time I can just add a little more to my stack, regardless if I've met my goals or not. If I can just add a little bit more, the day when that crap is worth hundreds of dollars. I'm just going to throw a number out there right now that I think is childish. So will be no problem at some point for silver to hit $200. Understand that this may not be $200 in today's U.S. dollars. It will be $200 in devalued, Donald Trump, Stephen Mnuchin, we had to do this, trade war, currency war, we have no choice. We have all these bonds out there, and now the market is flooding, selling them because interest rates are rising. They don't want to hold on to those turds anymore. We got problems, so the only way we can deal with this is to just devalue. We can print the money and buy the bonds ourselves, or we just devalue, give them less money for the bonds they're worth, and then we buy them up. So it'd be like me, one way, and there's numerous ways I can do this, but like you taking this coin, it's worth, let's say $20 today. $20, it's yours, have a nice day. It's a bond. I do some things behind the scenes that you don't know about. This is now worth $12. Hey, it's me again. Hey, how you doing, man? Hey, listen, you still got that coin? Oh, the one you sold me? Yeah, that coin. Yeah, actually, I do. Man, my stack's been doing bad lately. I don't want it to go any lower. I'm going to sell off. Okay. Listen, I'm sorry to hear that, man. Yeah, I know metals have been down. If you don't, I'll buy them from you. I'll give you the $12, and I'll get this back for $12. Ooh, that's kind of one way of dealing with the high debt. You just devalue what it's worth, and then people flood the market, and then you give them your devalued dollars now to buy it back from them. Not just devalued, but less dollars to buy it back. But what Donald Trump's talking about is specifically our dollar is too strong. So that, in other words, I don't know that we're going to see any kind of trickery. We just devalue the bonds, or we do this, do those backdoor secret ways of making things go down and then buy them back. And not that we want a bunch of our own bonds anyways. We want the rest of the world to have the bonds. We want them using our U.S. dollars, etc. But I think Donald Trump is specifically talking about, like, announcement. The dollar's too strong. China, they have these other, they have an agreement with Russia now. The Eurasian area, they have a trade block. The BRICS nation. If we don't devalue our dollar, we're not going to be able to be competitive. At certain points in time, a strong dollar is a good thing to have, but that was when the dollar was a reserve currency. And as you can see, it's not, a lot of countries are getting away from it now. It ran its course. We understand it was good while it lasted. We've got to devalue this dollar so that we can be competitive. All your debt will stay the same, etc. And you ever hear an announcement like that, listen to me. If you ever hear an announcement about the U.S. dollar devaluation, there's going to be a meeting next week about possible devaluation, you better immediately go look at the price of gold and silver. And if it's not skyrocketing catastrophically out of control, go buy some. When you start to hear, there's a meeting, you may not even hear it. It may be announced like a thief in the night on a Friday. Oh, by the way, when Monday opened up, the dollars, took a dump. The dollar index is 72 today. That may be how they do it. Because the dollar is, compared to a basket of currencies, heavily weighed by the euro. And that's called the dollar index. Well, the dollar's 115 today. It's never been that high in, 20 years. Well, that means the dollar's higher than all those other currencies in that basket. And the way I used to look at that was they're both devalued because they're both printing out of control, but they're comparing it against each other, so you can't really see it. Yet they're both two sinking ships, you could say. But ours is rising or not sinking as fast as the other one. So what happens if the opposite starts to occur? The dollar index will say 115, 112, 110, 97, 87, 72, 62. They can just do it without making an announcement, technically speaking. Because if they make the announcement, I don't know if that'd be a good idea. The government should just let it happen like it's a natural event, and our dollar index is going down and down and down. But don't worry about it. This is good for trade. It's okay, without ever using the word devaluation. So if you took wherever it's at today, which I'm going to look at right now, USD index, market watch. It's right at 100.56. Right at 100.56. Okay. So if that was to go down to 50, which would be absurd, but that's your devaluation. Without them actually using the word, we had to devalue the dollar. They'll just, oh, the market's priced it in, this happened, that happened. Then again, you never know. With Trump, he may just say, look, I was handing a mess, which he's already said. This is the reality. We're not going to sugarcoat this. If we are to survive as a nation, we must devalue our dollar because it is too strong, and we will never be able to compete again with the rest of the world. We've enjoyed the luxury of having a U.S. dollar reserve currency, and other countries are making moves. China, the currency manipulator, he'll say his thing. And in order for us to survive and stay competitive and trade, we must devalue our dollar. It's too strong. And you may hear the announcements. I don't know how they're going to do it. I'm just giving you a few examples of how it might go. But the bottom line is you're going to want to hang on to some precious metals before any of this stuff starts really happening out in the open. Because when that happens, it's probably going to be too late. Metals are already going to be too high. And you're going to see the circuit breakers getting tripped on the COMEX. Oh, silver and gold went up too fast this morning, and we had to trip the circuit breakers. You can't trade for a few minutes. Okay, they're back online again. Boom, they tripped the circuit breakers again. And I'm okay if that happens now because I have my silver. What I feel bad about is those of you who don't have your silver, who are trying to get your silver still, you don't have nearly enough, and time is freaking running out. To those I say, try to have a credit card on standby that has a nice little amount on it that you're not going to touch yet. And if you see crazy action happening all of a sudden in the precious metals market, swipe that card, baby, online, buy some silver all at once, and then start making payments to pay back the credit card. What you may find is that when you see the crazy action in metals going up so high and so fast, by the time your first payment comes in due, silver's gone up significantly. And by the time the second payment comes in for you to pay, make your payment to your credit card, silver's gone up even more. 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, oh my gosh, they're just going up and up and up. And you may get to the point where, oh my gosh, all I have to do is sell half my silver now, and I can pay off this credit card in full and keep half my silver. That is a strategic way of dealing with it, but the timing will be critical. What you don't want to do is find that you swipe that card, got the silver, but you can't even make the payments regardless of what silver is doing. You have to be able to make the payments, the monthly payments on your credit card, in order for that to work. And one thing you can't do, let me just swipe it, make 1 or 2 payments, and then default on it. That's not going to work. They'll see right through that maneuver. Anyways, been talking long enough. This is interesting news. It's not surprising. I've been covering every little piece of transaction between China, Russia, gold, everything. Fly on the wall. They open the exchange. I told you a couple years ago, look at these things that China is doing. They are replacing what we currently control. Now, they have the same systems to do the control, but they're not controlling it yet. Why is that so? Can't be 2 of us. Hey, this room ain't big enough for the 2 of us. And I got a feeling it's not you and I who will be the last man standing. It's going to be me Chinese, me play joke, me take the gold from your Coke, if you will. Anyways, gotta run. Take care.